All right, so I want to make a formal introduction for our listener. Good afternoon, Astrid. My name is Claudia. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C. From the studio in Fairfax City. We're very humble and grateful that Astrid Williamson accepted our invitation to our show. Astrid, welcome to the show.
Hi, Claudio. Nice to meet you.
Same here. Let's go back to the beginning. Were you born in a musical family? How were you when you began perhaps taking guitar lessons or piano lessons?
Well, my mum, when she was working, was a piano teacher, so that was fairly straightforward. She'd been taught classically as a singer and a pianist, so she was my teacher, and I started when I was about 8. And my father is a wonderful self-taught musician. He plays the banjo and the guitar and can pretty much pick up any instrument and play it. So I kind of had, and they played together a lot when we were small. So it was really musical, and I feel that was a great blessing, because some people don't have that, and there was never any sense of, there was no problem with pursuing music. I never, they were great, really encouraging.
And then let's say, moving forward a little bit, in high school, were you part of any band? What kind of music were you listening at the time? When you were, I don't know, 16.
I actually, the first concert I ever really went to was a folk concert by a band called Silly Wizard. And I was already playing folk music a lot anyway, and I got to meet them. I was really young, I think I was 12 or something. And then my stepfather was instrumental in starting the Shetland Folk Festival in 1980. And because he was one of the founding members of it, he's died, so he's not with us anymore. But we were in a band, my mother, my stepfather, my sister and I, and we would he was a compere, so we would open the folk festival. And I remember being at school and going to gym class and telling my teacher I couldn't possibly play basketball because I had to use my hands playing music, and I was working at night anyway, and I really should not be there. And I was quite convinced of how right I was to think he would just turn around and say, well, of course, Astrid, you're an artist performing tonight. Of course you can't do sport at school. So that was my first experience of getting the bug for playing music and performing, and I was around about 12 or 13 at that time. Yeah,
and then eventually you finished high school, right? And then was any pressure on your family, like go to school, go to college, forget about music, you're not going to make any money as a musician? School is the only way, or not?
No, because, well, both my parents and my stepfather said, my stepfather actually suggested I join the, like the military music, join the army or something and be in the musical corps, which didn't really appeal to me. But that would have been a career, actually. And both my parents said, be a teacher. So as long as you get a qualification, we don't care what you do. And I actually left home really young anyway. I left at 17 and finished school outside of I got a flat. So I didn't have a lot of parental constraints anyway when I started. It was and also where I come from, it's like, you grow up to a certain point and then you have to just get on with it. It's your responsibility to look after yourself and make your way. So as long as you're prepared to accept that, then you can do whatever you want. But I think I was quite lucky, actually, because I had dropped music. I'd done it up to O level, which is they call GCSEs now. But I thought I don't know why I dropped it. This happens to me occasionally. And very quickly, very, very quickly, I realized I'd made a mistake. I think I made my teacher cry by saying I was going to drop music. But then it was just some mini rebellion, I suppose. And then I took it back up. By then I had to change course, and it was quite messy. And eventually I just about got by the skin of my teeth. And I got into the RSAMD in Glasgow through audition, they said, you've definitely got a place. So it could have been quite messy, and actually in the end it all worked out. But no, I think my parents believed in, freedom in some ways,
Gotcha. Yeah, man. In my case, I was born in Chile, so I see you.
Oh, I love Chile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mentioned to Lisa the other day when I talked to her, and she was very happy. I was a troublemaker, man. I was a rebel, and I was a stupid kid, and then I had the opportunity to come to the United States, and I changed my life completely. I'm a scholar, I'm academic. I mean, music is music, and the radios and the podcasts, and it's therapy for me. It give me a lot of satisfaction. So that's what I do, talking to musicians and flying all over the world to see bands and stuff like that. I have done well in my life, so I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate. Some people don't have the opportunity to, I don't know, travel or see as many concerts or talk to famous people like yourself. And so I'm a very lucky guy, I think.
Famous, but what did your dad tell you that you had to do?
So both my parents were engineers, right? My father was the director of an important school there, and my mom was the fifth engineer graduated from a good school there in Chile. So it was a lot of pressure at home to, hey, school is the only way. Forget about the ladies, forget about music. And I was chasing girls, and I wanted to go to concert, and I was going crazy because 36 years ago, bands were not going to Latin America. So I was going crazy, right? So at the time, internet didn't exist, CDs didn't exist. So you used to get vinyls and cassette tape and stuff like that. And my parents told me, what makes you feel that will help you to go to the United States? If you're a very bad student, you're doing scholastic stuff. And I talked to my uncle, and I don't know, on 3 days later, I was in New York, and the rest is history. So, for being a troublemaker, stupid kid, very bad grade. I have 6 college degrees. I end up going to the best university in the country, Harvard University, and I'm a teaching fellow. I would have died to see 2 concerts at the time. There were 2 bands, Giallo Ponti and Pan Metheny. I have interviewed all of them. I have seen over.
Pat Metheny? Did you say Pat Metheny?
Yeah, Pan Metheny and Giallo Ponti and Tangerine. Those were my first 2 records, and then Tangerine Dream. At the time when I was 14 at the time, right? So those are first my 3 records. I thought, man, if I ever see any of the 3 bands, I will be happy with the rest of my life. Now I have seen all of them many, many times and many, many concerts. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know why the life is like that, but I got lucky along the way, Astrid. I'm an average person who make it happen, work hard. I'm not smart, no engineer. People say, well, you have a bunch of college degrees, you went to the best school, you're a teaching fellow. Yeah, but I work hard. I'm not intelligent. I'm consistent, I'm perseverant. If I have an idea, I will not stop. At the beginning, when I opened the radio, I did it during the pandemic to listen to my own stuff. People say, well, nobody will give you a time of the day. You have an accent. Yeah, you have a big collection of music and blah, blah, blah. And my first interview was with Steve Hackett from Just a Bit from Genesis, and the rest is history. I've done over 200 interviews.
Yeah, I saw there was a lot.
So I'm very lucky. I don't know. You need to do what you in life. You have to do you think that you're passionate about. There's no way around it. It's foolish to live somebody else's life and this. Why? I don't want to be the person, Astrid, one day I'm going to be 86 and say, man, why in the world I didn't do this or that? That's foolish. I don't want to live like that.
No.
So let's go back to you now. So when did you realize you were capable of singing? You have a unique voice, and I have listened to a lot of people, man.
Well, at the first Shetland Folk Festival, fiddle player Dave Swarbrick said to me, he was in Fairport Convention. He said, "You have an amazing voice," and I was very young and embarrassed. Really, I didn't really know how to take it. I remember feeling a bit off, like put off center by it, and he noticed my voice, and I could sing very high at that point. I can still sing pretty high, but yeah, and that was the first time anyone had said your voice is special or interesting or something. I can't quite remember, something like that. But I didn't really think about it, and I didn't do singing because my mother did singing. I should have done singing. Stupid not to, actually. I did harp instead, and a classical orchestral harp. Even getting it out of its case, you need to have you have to have like big muscles to get it out of its blooming case. It's so heavy. So I was rubbish at my second study, and I did composition after that. I did harp, then composition, but I should have done singing. It was daft not to, but never mind.
Well, you made it, So
yeah, I know, but I love actually operatic singing so much. I think I would have enjoyed it.
Really?
Yeah. I love opera. I think it's beautiful. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Good for you. Which one is in particular? Do you like any, or is one if you have? Yeah, I mean, you like stuff like La Traviata, or
I just think the female voice.
Yeah.
So I went to see Anna Nebtrebkov playing as Lady Macbeth a couple of years ago when she was in London, and God, her voice. I mean, she's a brilliant actress, but her voice is just beautiful. It's flawless. It's kind of flawless, and it's only when you really try and sing any of that stuff you realize how hard it is and how much of an athlete. They're like the Usain Bolt of singing. They have to be, Federer. The athleticism of the voice has to be sort of so strong to be able to sing that stuff. I mean, it's,
No, I understand. And then was Goya Dress your first band? Feel free to elaborate. All my questions are open-ended. It's for you to explain to the. I know your life.
Yeah.
In a way, but for you to explain to the audience, how that band came together. You were the founder, and how difficult was at the beginning.
I've been working with my friend Anton Kirkpatrick, who's an amazing guitarist, and he was a huge fan of Pat Metheny. That's how I know about him. And Lyle Mills, who was really wonderful pianist. And I kind of worked with him for a while through, I don't know, when I graduated, I'd started writing songs in my last year at the academy, and realized I really liked writing songs. And Katie Stood in the Benches was the first song I wrote. And I started writing songs, and I realized I wanted to have my own band. I wanted to be in charge of my own band, and I decided I liked the name. I'd been listening, I didn't have a TV, and I'd been listening to Radio 4, and they had a serialized series of the Forsyte saga, and one of the characters talks about a dress she wears as her Goya dress, and I was just captivated by the name Goya Dress, the way the words sat together. So I thought that I knew that was going to be the name of my band. And then I was so fortunate when I finally moved to London with Anton. We both moved together. And I found Simon Pearson first. And then another bass player was playing, and it wasn't really working out. And he said, "Oh, you've got to meet, she's a girl, she's American, she's called Terry de Castro." And we have a joke about it, that the minute I heard her name, I knew she was the right person. I knew she'd be the bass player. And apparently she's got back, and her flatmate said, "Oh, there's this girl that's been phoning you relentlessly. She's desperate to meet you. She wants you to join her band." And that's how I met Terry. But Simon was through a friend of mine who'd been at the academy. Mark Crooks, his name was. He's a clarinetist and saxophonist. Mark Crooks. And I said, "Oh, I need to put a band together." And he said, "Oh, Simon Pearson, best drummer in London, best drummer in London." So I thought, "Oh, that'll do. That's what I want, best drummer in London." So I met Simon, then Terry, and that was that. And then we just got going. But I'd been working, I'd been trying to, I understood how to put together what you needed. You needed a demo, you needed a little biography, hopefully if you could get a photograph. I understood all those things, and you had to get some concerts in place. And so prior to actually getting a record deal, which we got really fast, we only did 6 concerts before we had a record deal, and we got offered lots of record deals. We worked really hard for about a year getting the songs I'd written into, arranging them as Goya Dress, and I'd worked with other drummers, I'd auditioned other drummers before Simon, and none of them could interpret the music half as well as he did. And same with Terry, and also her voice as doing the backing vocals was fantastic. And we rehearsed a lot, and then we had shows in place, and really quickly. But it was the 90s. It was like I don't know. It was really a good time to be in a band in London in the 90s. There was
good for you.
Yeah, it was. Nowadays, I feel sorry for people starting in some ways because it's so much harder to. There's just so much more scope for, with the internet. It's great, but it's also makes it's like a buyer's market.
So you're glad you started in the 80s or 90s?
I would have started the bands that started. I started in the 90s, but the bands that started in the 80s, they are the ones that have. If you look at how many bands are touring in a really massive way, there's lots of great bands that started in the 80s, that have a really massive life now. Even Dead Can Dance,
of course,
because they've got that early start with vinyl and a loyal fan base.
Oh yeah.
The Cure, Depeche Mode, all those types of bands. I think that they started the very best time. But who knows? I bet everybody has an opinion about when's best. You start when you start.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Well, and then you guys end up with 6 albums, right? The Bedroom Cinema until Rooms, and then the one for 1994.
We did EPs with Bedroom Cinema and Ruby.
Yeah.
Even Glorious was released with extra B-sides, and then Rooms. And we went to do all the songs that are, pretty much all the songs on Boy For You were songs we'd been rehearsing. It was just Malcolm had a really different approach, which kind of made it more difficult to be, because when we worked with John Cale, it was very much about the live performance and trying to capture something live. And then Malcolm was much more about, I think he was in maybe in a period of programming slightly. I'm not sure how I would describe it, but it wasn't as conducive. But it was still really an incredible experience.
And you guys were making enough money to pay the bills, to survive, to rent a flat?
Because it was the 90s, we got a big deal and we could be on wages. So, but that didn't, because Rooms wasn't a runaway success, it wasn't so easy to sustain that, and things started to get more difficult. But, that's how things go.
Yeah. And then you start working on your own, right? The first record that you did solo was Boy For You, and
well, Terry and Simon played on Boy For You. It just didn't. I think to capture a band, there is an element of having to capture the band, and that wasn't how that was approached, which is slightly. It's how it worked out. But I think my writing hasn't really changed. I was always writing and bringing music to be interpreted and arranged. Like we arranged Goya Dress with what Simon and Terry brought to what Goya Dress music is obvious. You can hear it. It's really wonderful what their individuality brought to it. But my writing process never really changed. I was just writing, then I would bring songs.
Yeah, I got you. I was able to listen to, the majority of the stuff that was on Spotify last night, and on the day before when I was preparing for the interview. And feel free to elaborate, and because it's a beautiful story about Into the Mountains. Mountain. It's a beautiful album. It's kind of, I don't know, very personal. I mean, so in many ways, the way I listen to music are very different than most people, right? So because English is not my primary language, I can, in my brain, dissociate music from rhythm and lyrics. So I listen to the beat, right? I'm able to concentrate on the beat, right? I like the beat, I like the work, and then I listen to the lyrics, and then I put that together. And it's kind of, I don't know if I would say that, but in many ways, it's you really open up. That's the best way I can say, feeling of loss, desire, or reflection in your life, analyzing your life or going back. And is that correct? Or?
Well, I think it's funny because when we were working together in Goya Dress, me and Terry would often talk about the lyrics, and she said, "Who's she? Who is she?" Because everything would be in the third person. And in some ways, a lot of the content in those songs is not that different to the content of Into the Mountain in some ways, although Into the Mountain is more direct because it's a first person narrative, and it's clearly about me. And I just think I'm not worried about owning what I write about in some ways. And also as a writer, I always made things up as well. There's confessional and then there's just creativity. And I am a mixture of a confessional songwriter that has done this. The theory about songwriting that some songwriters, you sublimate anything to do with trauma into your life, into your songs or your music, or if you were an artist, you would paint it, or if you're a poet, you'd write some poetry. I think that's a real common process for some artists. There's so many different kinds, but that's a real process where people take their own trauma and turn it into something, that they would probably call beautiful, and they would think this is what I love. I love to create this, or not. Maybe they just have to create it. And I did that. I think that was a real motivation for me to write music. And after, how many years is it? It's almost 30 years. Well, it's certainly 30 years since I started writing, more than. I think you just grow up a bit into your creativity, and it's easier as you're older to just accept this is what I'm writing. But I'm fairly sure that I would make Into the Mountain the last album of that style that I would want to write anyway. I don't have any interest in writing about myself at all. And I would suggest it might be the last album I do in that style, because I've written about everything I need to say about the world of Astrid Williamson.
Right.
Enjoy it, because there's not going to be any more of that. If I write about anything, I certainly won't be writing about myself.
I got you. I understand. The music industry is notoriously, cutthroat, and it's difficult to make a living. Feel free to elaborate what it means to you. For me, I don't know. So I go to see Depeche Mode or Genesis, whatever. I buy a ticket, and I don't care. I don't worry about how the cuenten canter, if you guys have a good night's sleep or not, if you were traveling from a different city the night before, the people that put the scenario together, and then, the lighting, the sound. I don't care any of the stuff. Now I start worrying about the stuff. But I show up at 7:30 to my show, I drink a couple of beers, and I drive home, right? I have no idea how the stuff came together, or how much you get paid, or, whatever, if you're sick. And, so it's a very difficult.
Well, I think it's very difficult to. One of my issues that I've always felt, even though I think some of my really acoustic music, things like, even say for instance, Katie Stood on the Benches, right up to Scattered, are songs that can stand alone on a piano. But the music I enjoy creating is it's ambitious and it's complicated. and it's got lots of layers to it, and it's really hard to recreate that without a decent budget. You can't, it's really difficult. I've tried for years and years now. It's so awful to hear your music compromised because you don't have the funds to get the things you need to make it, to represent it.
Yeah.
You know, I think I've, again and again I went through that, trying to create, like I toured the Day of the Lone Wolf with a band of great players that it was as close as I could get, and even that was hard because we were always support, so you don't have much control. I don't know, it just never quite fell into place where you could have the kind of budget you need to create just to make, I mean, when I worked for Dead Can Dance, that would be lovely, so that you had the budgets to employ people properly and have proper equipment and be the headline so that you can control what's happening. I can imagine how great it would be in those circumstances, but unless you found your audience and had whatever it is, not necessarily a hit, but you need to have found your audience, and I don't think that's ever happened for me. So, I can see why it's difficult, and I sort of, I'm quite accepting now. It's just, I can recognize why I'm slightly reticent around touring, and it's like you need the correct ingredients to put it together. I mean, I can always do a solo show and it's fine, but it's not why I make those albums and take huge amounts of effort to write the string parts and get them exactly how I want them.
Do you think that you will ever get to a point where you will have enough budget to, do the everything that you want to do with a record, right?
Maybe. So I also think, I'm a writer. I like writing best. I've always found the showy look at me side of it appalling. I hate it. I'm not really, I'm doing this because you're nice, and I don't really like talking about myself, and I don't really particularly want to be looked at. And it's kind of, I like the writing bit, and then once I'm finished, it's kind of like, next, what am I going to write now? And it's just, I actually think that if I'd figured that out sooner, I might not have. I mean, I do enjoy performing, but I don't want to make it sound like an excuse. I think if anybody wants anything badly enough, it's there for them. And for me, I recognize that if I was madly in love with the idea of getting everything perfect and being a touring rock band or artist, I think I could have made it work. I would have found a way, but I just don't think that's why I do it. I think I write to express myself and enjoy writing. I don't think the writer of me is bigger than the performer in me, I feel.
Very well said. Very well. Yeah.
Because I think the rest sounds a little bit like excuses to me when I'm listening to it. And I think that's maybe the deeper truth.
Yeah. For me, doing this interview is like therapy. It's like going to a psychologist.
Oh, really?
Well, because I open up a little bit about my life, but a lot of people have told me the same thing. And I don't do it on purpose. I'm the psychologist. I ask open-ended questions to you, to anybody else, to come to the show for an interview, and then I want to know the person, the person behind the instrument or whatever. The same, if I was talking to Peter Gabriel, right? Everybody will be talking about the hits and this and album. I don't do that. Everybody knows about that. I want to know the person. That's what I ask you. Feel free to elaborate on this, how difficult it was. Because it's important to, I don't know, for me, of course, I'm not going to ask you any intrusive question or, any personal stuff. I don't care. That's just life. I know you as a musician. So I like for the people to talk about themselves, how they struggle, how difficult the traveling the night before, if you're sick, or, how difficult it was to put an album together, traveling, the 40 shows in a year is very difficult if you have kids or whatever. I want to get to know the person a little bit. That's what I'm aiming for.
I've had some hard jobs. Music's a lot easier than that. Working in the fish factory or in a flower shop in December, that's hard work. Although, I think being a musician is great. There's a lot to whine about if you want to, but yeah, it's probably one of the best ones. It's why actors all want to be musicians.
And so then you tour with Brendan Perry. You were providing keyboards and backing vocal in his 2010 tour, right? That's the first time when you ever came close to the Dead Condensed people?
No,
I know I did. You did some stuff with Lisa as well, right? So
my connection came through. I worked with Ivor Watts Russell on the Hope Blister, which is an album that he made, which is a really beautiful album, just beautiful. And he put me up for that job with Brendan, and then I did that. Just as he said, "Do you mind if I put your name up for Brendan Perry's putting a band together?" And actually, he didn't actually pick me in the first place. He got Jules, but then Jules couldn't do it, so he got me. And now they have both of us, so that's great. And then that's how I met Lisa, through Brendan, of course. And then Lisa and I worked on the Twilight Kingdom. That was amazing. She's amazing. She's very generous as an artist. I've never met another artist as generous as Lisa.
Really?
Her talent, yeah. She's very generous with her talent,
Yeah.
Well, she's generous generally, but I mean, she's particularly open, I'd say, about working with her. She's very available. If you're working with her across a room with keyboards and stuff, she's great. I think she changed my life more than almost any artist I think besides Anton at the beginning, she changed my life because she also loved the classical music I was writing. And so her encouragement made me, amongst other things, finish the Requiem I'd started a long time ago. And so that was wonderful, That was really wonderful to think, actually why don't I finish that? And that was her encouragement as much as anything.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, you have been a part of, I interviewed Marcelo recently, a couple of weeks ago, and you have been an integral part of Exaudia as well. And so
I did that work ages and ages ago. I could barely remember it. I was so delighted they got it finished. It was great. That was on the violin. I don't think I'm very good at all, but whatever I did, they liked it, so that's good.
Yeah, that's a beautiful album, man.
Yes, it is.
I told Lisa and I told Marcelo many times because Marcelo and I are like kind of friends now because I'm from Chile, he's from Argentina, originally Italian family, so we get on very well. I talk to him daily, and I keep on telling Marcelo, you need to put this album together. I know Lisa is very busy; she's doing the Bear, then she will do some stuff in Australia, then they do the Dead Can Dance, and then they finish in Mexico in April. But in between, try to do like something like he's doing with Jules, right? The Bear albums. They're doing seven shows in Portugal. Try to convince her or management or whatever you need to do, to even do 5 or 6 shows, whatever the budget is for allocated for that, because it's a very beautiful piece. And I have listened to a lot of music in my life, Astrid, a lot of music, a lot of bands, and Exaudia is a masterpiece. I mean, the work that Marcelo worked very hard. Lisa is unbelievable. You, for example, and other people did work too, and the videos and that Marcelo has been releasing are unbelievable. It's a very good start. You know when did you have something great in front of you. I don't need to tell you that, right? Yeah. So I will keep on pushing Marcelo to do it. He doesn't do that with Lisa. I will never talk to Marcelo again. Because I will be pissed off. If you have a dream, if you know how to do, you gotta do it. I also told Marcelo I will volunteer my help for free. I will help financially a little bit, and I will do whatever I need to do. For you to see you with Lisa, either in a in a small place or I don't know, a college campus or whatever. It doesn't make a difference, right? I would like to see, that album. And how you like playing with Dead Can Dance? You were playing part of the 2012 and 2013 show.
Yeah, I think
Now, yeah.
in the last decade, yeah. No, it's a lot of work. I do a lot in the show, but it's great to sort of stretch yourself like that, and it's nice to have that. Sometimes I'm trying to mimic Lisa's vocals, which is sort of lovely to be part of Host of the Seraphim and stuff like that. These are beautiful pieces that, if you a session musician, you could be in lots of different bands, but the music that Dead Can Dance write is so special. It's wonderful to be part of that, actually, because it's just extremely excellent. You could, if you have to have a job doing music that's not your own work, you could be in anybody's band. And the only other band would be Peter Gabriel's band. If Peter Gabriel wants a keyboard. But when you have to play other people's music, it's sort of amazing to be playing such beautiful, complex, considered, the amount of consideration both Lisa and Brendan put into their music is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredibly thoughtful and cared about. And it's very serious, which, I'm quite serious, It's quite serious. So listen, I might need to love you and leave you quite soon. That's I have to be somewhere. But I hope have you got enough for your
hopefully, when you have time
or something,
when you have time and busy, if we can do another half an hour, sure to be able to do part 2 if you have the time. But I know that I know you like Chile, and I know you like going there, and hopefully you guys will be.
If you look at my support slots on the last Dead Can Dance, because I was supporting alternately with Jules.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a red poncho.
Oh yeah, what's
so funny because we were staying in Chile in Santiago at the beginning of the 2012 tour, and I saw this red poncho, and I thought it was in a display case. And I'd go down and breakfast every day, and there it was, because we stayed for a few days. And I thought, I can't leave Chile without that red poncho. I can't leave Chile. So I bought it. It was expensive.
Yeah.
I bought it. And a whole year later, we'd come to the end. We'd been around the world, and we'd come back to Chile, and we happened to be finishing in Chile.
Yeah.
There was 2 more ponchos. And I thought, oh my God, I have to have the other ponchos too. So I was bankrupting myself with Chilean ponchos. I have a blue one, a black and white one, and a red one. So that's one of the reasons I love Chile.
Okay, good for you. It was I'm happy that I was born there, and but I'm even happier here in the United States. So.
Also, I saw you joined the Patreon. If you just for your own stuff and for anybody else that wants to join the Patreon.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of sort of not information that's not out there, but I elaborate greatly. If you scroll through the feed, there's always lots and lots of my personal thoughts about everything, and there's demos of lots of things and writing about the process, and so you might glean some information. So if you did want to do part 2, you might have more stuff that is of interest. That if you now that you're in the Patreon, you don't have to stay for as long as you want, but if you make use of it, there's a lot of stuff. The reason it's an exclusive Patreon is because it's for stuff that I don't generally put into the world for everybody, so it makes it worth people's while to be in the Patreon.
Of course. Well, I'm happy to help out a little bit. It was
good
luck to you. I was very nice talking to you, Astrid, and I will see you quite sure with the Condensed very soon.
Be in Chile, I dare say, or Washington.
Yeah, I will.
On one of those shows.
Yeah, I will be in 5 shows next year. So,
and
very likely, I will go to Mexico with you guys. Okay. I don't want to talk about this stuff here, but because I don't know where this stuff will end. But yeah, very likely I will help out.
Let's not jinx it, shall we?
Huh?
Let's not.
Yeah, I will help out a little bit with the Mexico tour, hopefully. Yeah, so that will be my kind of first experience going behind the scene to see what's happened there. I would love to do a little bit documentary and help out in any way I can. And
Sure.
even
Well, yeah. Well, we're in touch, so.
all right, take it easy. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good luck to you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.